Bruce. You're supposed to be dead.
Sorry to disappoint.
Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. I'm your host Will. Death in comic books is less of an ending and more like a suggestion. So it should come as no surprise that someone like Batman has died so many times and has come back as many times, which is the topic of today's video. Let's get to it, shall we?
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Batman has died so many times that, at this point, death for him is like an inconvenience that he has to get past in order to continue his work as the Dark Knight. It seems like, for as long as Batman has existed, people have been trying to kill him. Across nearly 9 decades of DC history, writers have killed Batman time and again, either successfully or not, trying to convince readers that Bruce Wayne has met his end as a superhero. Yet, every time it seems as if the Bat is gone for good, he somehow seems to find a way back. Either it was all a trick that fooled everyone, or a combination of time travel and some divine intervention. Not only has Batman been killed several times in the comics, he's also managed to die on television, in a video game, and in one of the biggest Batman movies ever made. So we're gonna go through the Dark Knight's strangest deaths and supposed deaths, from a bizarre 1950s stunt to stories where even the audience wasn't sure what really took place, all the way to a modern cliffhanger whose resolution remains surprisingly complicated. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it.
What the hell are you? I'm Batman.
The Death Cheaters of Gotham City. Long before he was being taken out by various means of death, being buried under rubble, or seemingly blowing up, Batman had already been finding various ways to creatively cheat death itself. One of these instances was first introduced in Batman number 72, The Death Cheaters of Gotham City, in 1952, involving a bizarre Gotham City club called the Death Cheaters Club. Each individual who was a part of this club had one particular requirement they had to meet in order to be a part of this group. They had to be officially declared dead by a doctor, only to live again through various other means, such as poison, snakebite, suffocation, and even epileptic fits, to name a few. The club becomes less interesting, however, when it turns out that each individual is being murdered in a similar fashion to how they died. The most obvious suspect is a criminal due to his record and history of being killed, but after being denied membership to the club due to his criminal ways, Little Dougie threatens the club members. Batman, however, begins to suspect more, considering the killer would have to know a lot about the individuals in order to kill them. With this in mind, Bruce Wayne disguises himself as another wealthy man, takes some poison, and is pronounced dead by the examining doctor, allowing him to become an official member of the Death Cheaters Club. Yeah, Batman basically fakes his death just to become a part of this club. With this, however, Batman is able to determine the real killer behind these murders due to his status as an official member of the club. It's soon discovered that the real killer is none other than Jeff Severs, the crooked accountant for the Death Cheaters Club, who was murdering members to cover up his embezzlement and had faked his death through an apparent epileptic fit in order to sneak in among the members. Jeff Severs is eventually unmasked after his red ink fountain pen gives him away during a dramatic confrontation, and he is arrested for his murderous ways. Where were you on the night Batman was killed? Well, for once, Batman didn't actually die, and this time he wasn't even meant to. Spread across 4 issues of Batman number 291 to 294 from September to December of 1977, the word gets out among Gotham's criminal underworld that Batman is finally dead. Despite that, Batman's enemies don't seem too fazed by the idea of him being dead, and the whole city's criminal element has a problem with someone getting the credit for killing Batman. So Gotham's villains decide to have a trial in a mansion with Ra's al Ghul as the judge and Two-Face as the prosecutor, where the villains who testify, like Catwoman, the Riddler, Lex Luthor, and the Joker, tell their stories of how they killed Batman. The key point is that each villain has some flaws in their story about the killing of Batman, and Two-Face is determined to find them out. Firstly, Catwoman tells her story, then followed by the Riddler. Two-Face exposes the lies in their stories, pointing out the inconsistencies. Further, they invite Lex Luthor, who tells a story about killing Batman. According to him, he killed Batman with the help of a satellite that was used to swap the minds of Batman and Superman. However, Superman then appears as a surprise witness, revealing that he had actually been undercover in Batman's body the whole time. That wasn't the end of the story, as finally, the Joker tells a story about killing a man in the Batman suit. However, it turns out that the man was a huge fan of Batman named Jerry Randall. The Joker killed him, mistaking his costume for Batman's. After Two-Face exposes the lies and inconsistencies in each of their stories, the biggest twist of the trial is finally revealed. It turns out that Two-Face isn't Two-Face at all, but Batman, who wanted to uncover the truth behind his supposed death. The Dark Knight returns. By 1986, Batman had already faked his death more than once. However, when Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns debuted, the circumstances would be considerably different. 55-year-old Bruce Wayne has been retired as Batman for years, but the increased crime in Gotham eventually pushes him back into the suit, and as he returns to the role, the US government eventually sends Superman to stop him. This event, arguably the most monumental Batman story ever told, sees Bruce Wayne preparing for the battle against the Man of Steel, knowing that he would not stand a chance otherwise. He acquires a heavily armored battlesuit and stockpiles explosives and electricity-based weapons to even the odds against Superman. His trump card is a synthetic kryptonite-tipped arrow, fired by Green Arrow, using kryptonite that Batman has spent years synthesizing for exactly this fight. At the end of it, as midnight strikes, Batman apparently dies of a heart attack. Meanwhile, Alfred burns down Wayne Manor and the cave, erasing any trace of Batman ever existing, but suffers a fatal stroke shortly afterwards and dies. This wasn't the end of Batman, however. Superman finds Bruce Wayne's body at his funeral, but quickly realizes that something isn't right when he hears a heartbeat coming from the supposedly dead man. It's later revealed that Bruce Wayne, as he had planned, faked his death by using a chemical that slowed his heart to a crawl, fooling the doctors and the world in general into believing that he was dead. However, Superman doesn't reveal the truth, and Bruce continues training his new recruits, the Sons of Batman, while preparing to continue his fight from the shadows. Thus, the story concluded with the Dark Knight seemingly dying, but secretly continuing his fight as a ghost in the shadows. However, this is what makes him so special. He didn't need to rely on any miracles to keep him alive. All he had to do was prepare for his fake death, fool the world, and continue his fight in the shadows. The man who killed Batman. There are even cases where Batman did not have to fake his death to throw his enemies off his trail. In the Batman the Animated Series episode, The Man Who Killed Batman, the story revolves around an accidental apparent death. The episode follows the antics of the second-rate villain Sidney "Sid the Squid" Debris, one of the most inept henchmen in Gotham City, known not necessarily for his viciousness, but rather for his consistently bad luck. Batman has been on the trail of a drug ring run by Rupert Thorne, and Thorne's men decide to use Sid as bait for Batman. It all goes wrong when, on a rooftop, Sid accidentally causes Batman to fall from the building onto a leaking gas tank, which explodes. With Batman nowhere to be seen afterward, Gotham assumes that the Dark Knight is dead. Word of his death gets to the underworld fast, with all the villains hearing the devastating news. Even the Joker is surprised and even sad that someone finally got to Batman before him. Other villains start treating Sid like a hero, while some even challenge or threaten him because of his new reputation, much to Sid's dismay. He wants to stay far away from all of them, seeing that he doesn't want to be in any position of power or responsibility, but he has to be their hero. In his attempt to get away from all this unwanted attention, Sid turns to Rupert Thorne for help in keeping other villains away. Rupert, upon meeting Sid, figures out that there is a good possibility that he didn't kill Batman after all. The misunderstanding is finally brought to an end in a confrontation between Batman and the villains as the truth comes out that Batman is still alive. In truth, Batman survived the explosion and used the confusion surrounding his supposed death to keep an eye on the villains, eventually discovering Rupert's involvement with the drug ring. To summarize, Sid becomes famous as the man who killed Batman, even though he never actually meant to, and Batman was never really dead either. This time, Batman didn't have to fake his death, he simply let everyone believe it. Batman R.I.P. Final Crisis: The Return of Bruce Wayne. One of Batman's most complicated deaths began in Batman R.I.P. and continued in Final Crisis number 6, Battle for the Cowl and the Return of Bruce Wayne. After being shattered by the villain known as Dr. Hurt, Bruce Wayne is faced with an even greater challenge in Final Crisis as he encounters Darkseid. Once arriving at the battlefront, Bruce Wayne is overwhelmed by Darkseid's power. However, he manages to appear before Darkseid and engage him in single combat. During the fight, Bruce Wayne discards his principles of not using firearms and manages to shoot Darkseid in the shoulder with a Radion bullet, one of the few weapons that poses a threat to him. However, Darkseid responds by delivering the Omega Sanction to Batman, and Superman, who arrives shortly afterwards, can only find what appears to be Batman's remains. Everyone assumes that Bruce Wayne is truly dead. Since Gotham needed a Batman, Dick Grayson becomes the new Batman of Gotham City during the events of Battle for the Cowl, while the rest of the Bat family mourns Bruce Wayne's supposed death. However, this wasn't the end for Bruce Wayne. In the return of Bruce Wayne, he is revealed not to have truly died at all, but instead to have been sent flying backwards through time by the force of Darkseid's Omega Sanction. Beginning in the prehistoric age, Bruce himself is thrown through different periods of history, from prehistoric times to colonial America and the Wild West, having to fight his way through them while discovering what has happened to him. This was all part of Darkseid's plan to utilize Bruce Wayne as a weapon against the present, but Bruce Wayne manages to overcome it and return to his own time. His return wasn't as simple as putting the cape and cowl back on, as Grayson had already been established as Gotham's Batman. Instead, Bruce expands his mission by creating Batman Incorporated, turning Batman's war on crime into an international operation, before eventually returning to the main Batman role. For a while, Batman was truly gone, as Bruce was presumed dead. Dick Grayson had taken his place, and Bruce himself was trapped somewhere else in history. But eventually, even time couldn't keep Batman down. The Dark Knight Rises. Bruce Wayne appears to make the ultimate sacrifice. Gotham has been captured by Bane, and a nuclear bomb is ready to obliterate the entire city. After fighting Bane, Batman takes control of the bomb and carries it away from Gotham in an experimental craft known as the Bat. There are mere minutes on the timer and no apparent way out for him. The Bat flies off over the water, carrying the bomb a significant enough distance from Gotham to save it when the explosion hits. Everyone watching believes Batman is aboard the aircraft, and his death is taken as the sacrifice that saves the city from Bane and his device. The city is safe, but Gotham's hero now appears to be dead. Bruce Wayne is also believed to be deceased. Batman is honored as a hero, while Bruce is mourned by those closest to him, and it seems that this is the end of his story. There is a flaw in this, however. During an earlier part of the film, Lucius Fox reveals that the Bat's autopilot is broken, which seemingly leaves no way for Batman to escape the aircraft before detonation. However, at the end of the film following Batman's supposed death, Lucius comes to a shocking realization. The Bat's autopilot was actually repaired months earlier, and Bruce was secretly responsible for fixing it, never having told anyone. This confirms that Bruce had set the Bat on autopilot, escaped from the aircraft before the explosion, and let everyone believe he was no more. The film never actually shows how Bruce escaped. The point of the sequence is for him to be able to let go of Batman. Then comes the true reveal in the final sequence of the film, where Alfred is enjoying a peaceful cup of coffee in Florence, the city where he has always imagined Bruce would go to start a new life. As Alfred enjoys his drink, he looks up and sees Bruce sitting with Selina Kyle at a nearby cafe. He looks across at Alfred and gives his old butler a knowing smile, strongly suggesting that he survived the explosion and chose to live his own life without the burden of being Batman. This makes Batman's death another planned fake-out. However, this time around, it isn't for the sake of stopping a criminal or resolving a case, but rather the final act that finally sets Bruce Wayne free. Batman Endgame Superheavy. The New 52 had its own take on what happens when Batman dies, and it starts with what might be one of its most brutal Batman-Joker face-offs. In the arc Endgame, Joker returns and unveils his plan to finish Gotham off for good, pushing the rivalry between himself and Batman to its climax. Batman and the Joker fight it out in the depths of Gotham, and it's made clear that neither is willing to back down. The battle ends with both Batman and the Joker seemingly dead, the Joker's body never found, as Gotham mourns the loss of its Dark Knight. Bruce Wayne is also mourned, as he is assumed dead along with Batman. But unlike other times where Batman faked his death, this one had lasting effects on the city because the mantle would now have to be picked up by someone else. That someone turns out to be Jim Gordon, as the former commissioner is recruited to take up the role of Gotham's new Batman. But unlike Bruce, Gordon doesn't take up the role of Batman in a secret identity. Instead, he uses a huge mechanized suit to fight crime in Gotham. This is explored more in depth in the arc Superheavy, where a new Batman emerges in the form of Gordon, while Bruce Wayne is presumed dead. But Bruce Wayne was not dead, as he is found alive later on with one problem. He has lost all memory of being Batman after being restored by the same substance that healed the Joker, Dionysium. He continues to live as an everyday citizen, unaware of who he truly is. until he slowly regains fragments of his lost memory. It seems that the memories of Batman are still buried somewhere inside him, but he has no way of accessing them. By Batman number 50, Bruce Wayne has regained his memories and becomes Batman again. Jim Gordon steps away from the role, while Bruce takes back the mantle and resumes his life as Batman. So this time, Bruce Wayne didn't physically die, but the Batman everyone knew was gone. When Bruce finally returned, he had to rediscover the identity that once made him the Dark Knight. Batman: Arkham Knight, The Nightfall Protocol. The Nightfall Protocol, which led to Batman's retirement, is one of the most discussed subjects regarding Bruce Wayne's destiny at the end of Batman: Arkham Knight. In the final stages of the game, Scarecrow eventually manages to reveal Batman's identity to the world. Bruce later returns to Wayne Manor and activates the Nightfall Protocol, after which Wayne Manor explodes, leaving Bruce and Alfred presumed dead and officially ending Batman's public career. Nevertheless, after completing 100% of the game, an additional epilogue shows Gordon, now the mayor of Gotham, preparing to attend Barbara Gordon and Tim Drake's wedding. Elsewhere, two criminals attack a family in an alley before a nightmarish Batman-like figure appears, suggesting that Batman's mission continued in a darker, more terrifying form. For years, Arkham Knight left players to debate what really happened after the Wayne Manor explosion. The complete Nightfall Protocol ending implied that Batman's mission had continued in a darker, more terrifying form, but it did not give a direct answer. That answer came much later in Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. Its final Episode 8 revealed that the Batman killed by the Suicide Squad was a Brainiac-created clone. The real Arkhamverse Bruce Wayne was alive and returned to help defeat Brainiac. Batman number 163, Hush 2. Batman has experienced death several times before, but the one in Batman number 163, the 2026 conclusion to Hush 2 Part 1, written by Jeff Loeb and illustrated by Jim Lee, is one of the most interesting because the story isn't over. Batman has to fight the villain Hush once more, and he has to rely on the help of some of his enemies, while Hush has convinced several people to assist him during the deadly fight. It seems, however, that Bruce Wayne has suffered the most, as Hush is able to stab the Dark Knight in the heart. The intervention of Talia al Ghul has its purpose, as she refuses to leave his body and puts him in the Lazarus Pit to resurrect him. After emerging from the Lazarus Pit, Batman embraces and kisses Talia, with the ending hinting that he may be experiencing pit madness. According to DC Comics, Batman number 163 concludes Hush 2 Part 1. This means there will be a continuation of this story, as Jeff Loeb has confirmed that Hush 2 will receive a second part. Loeb has said that the second part is planned for 2027, although DC Comics has not announced a specific launch date as of yet. It was also revealed by Loeb himself that the second part will not be titled Hush 3. Unlike other points mentioned in the list, the death of Batman depicted in Batman number 163 is not quite over yet. The Brave and the Bold number 115, The Corpse That Wouldn't Die. Batman, with all his strength and power, has faced explosives, bullets, poison, and even the forces of the universe itself. But at times, the reason for his miraculous survival could be something as unspectacular as a fellow superhero who refused to leave him. In 1974, The Brave and the Bold number 115 told a story under the title The Corpse That Wouldn't Die, about Batman's apparent death and his odd resurrection. Unlike many other instances of Batman escaping death, in this issue, his chances of continuing to be the Dark Knight were severely hampered. It all happened when Batman got caught in an electrical trap while on a mission to investigate a kidnapping. After the current ran through his body, doctors concluded that there was no activity in his brain. It appeared that Batman was dead. However, someone, on this occasion Ray Palmer, also known as the Atom, didn't think so. Having the ability to shrink to microscopic sizes, Palmer entered Batman's brain, trying to see for himself if there was actually no activity there. In this issue, instead of trying to save Batman by helping him escape from a dangerous situation, the superhero managed to save him by stimulating the inactive portions of his brain. He made sure that the body of Bruce Wayne kept working long enough for Batman to survive. It worked, and Batman was revived in time to continue what he did best: fight crime. Unlike other issues in which Batman escaped death by tricking the villain into thinking he was dead, or dying with some elaborate trick up his sleeve, on this occasion, he simply had the help of another hero. It's not like he had time to even come up with some elaborate plan to revive himself in the process. Although today it seems almost far-fetched, this story, and in particular the apparent death of Batman, is among the most memorable ones in the long legacy of the hero. It seems that while the Dark Knight managed to survive a huge number of horrific circumstances, when it came to actually dying, this time it took the help of another to bring him back. Superman, Emperor Joker, when Joker killed Batman again and again. The story tells about the transformation of Joker's lust for killing Batman into something monstrous. In Superman, Emperor Joker, 2000, Joker gains the ability to bend reality according to his desires from the reality-bending alien Mr. Mxyzptlk. Thus, he bends the world to his dark liking, focusing specifically on the endless torment of Batman. While in the grip of his madness, Joker kills Bruce Wayne and resurrects him several times in an effort to torment the hero over and over again. It's important to know that Joker doesn't simply trick his victim into believing that he's dead. He has the power to decide whether Bruce Wayne lives or dies and makes the hero experience the horror of death many times. Bruce survives the encounter with Emperor Joker. However, his survival comes at a terrible cost because he remembers everything that happened to him. It's up to Clark to free Bruce from that never-ending dread, not by erasing the memories, but by taking them into his own mind instead, carrying that burden himself. In conclusion, it is noteworthy that the death and rebirth of Batman and Emperor Joker is one of the most horrifying ways he could have died in the comics. Bruce himself is killed and resurrected multiple times, and Joker has the opportunity to manipulate this process at will. Thus, Batman doesn't simply die, he's forced to die over and over again, feeling his own mortality with every heartbeat. Therefore, Bruce Wayne, the Batman, is not dead. However, to return to normal life, he needs Superman to take on the weight of what Joker put him through, taking those memories into himself. Justice League number 75, Dark Crisis, The Death of the Justice League. In 2022, Justice League number 75 saw the DC Universe change forever. Batman joined Superman, Wonder Woman, and the rest of the Justice League to face Pariah and his Dark Army. They had no idea what they were getting into, and ultimately, the League was defeated. The issue concluded with the apparent deaths of almost all the members of the Justice League, including Batman, with Black Adam as the sole survivor. Across the DC Universe, the news of the Justice League's death sent shockwaves and raised questions. After all, who would protect the world if not the powerful heroes of the Justice League? And where exactly was Batman's replacement? It was up to Nightwing, John Kent, Yara Flor, and the rest of the new generation to step up to the plate and show the world that they could handle the responsibility of being the protectors of Earth, despite the Justice League's apparent sacrifice. But Batman's story was far from over. As it turns out, Pariah did not kill the members of the Justice League. He placed them in different realms, each built around their individual desires and idealized versions of reality. And so, Batman is eventually freed from his realm and returns to the battle with the rest of the Justice League. Their return to the fight marked the turning point of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. It marked the end of an era for DC Comics, as once again, Batman disappeared and, for all intents and purposes, died. But, as with many other times in his life, it wasn't a permanent end. For Batman, it was only another death. But for the rest of the League, it was a heartbreaking experience. Batman has died in many ways you can imagine, but as we've seen, his deaths are almost never the end. Whether it was a strange stunt in the Silver Age called Death Cheaters, or a whole criminal underworld believing some fake was the real Batman, the Dark Knight always managed to come back. Bruce Wayne himself planned some of those comebacks. Think about stories like The Dark Knight Returns, The Dark Knight Rises, and Arkham Knight, while in The Man Who Killed Batman, he simply took advantage of the misunderstanding. Then there were the longer absences. In the real world, readers had to wait about 2 years before Bruce Wayne resurfaced after Final Crisis in The Return of Bruce Wayne, even though in the story, he had been flung across thousands of years of history. There was also the Jim Gordon era as Batman after Endgame, and in Hush 2, Bruce has returned from the dead. But what then? It's probably due to this that Batman continues to return, as these stories demonstrate his importance and the possibility of his legacy continuing despite the end of Bruce Wayne. The brain-dead Batman in The Brave and the Bold number 115 is just another example of how many strange ways the Dark Knight has managed to come back. But now it's your turn. Which Batman death actually got to you, even for a second? And do you think Batman will ever truly stay dead? Do let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.